Well, I said I was going to do a little talk about the check balls versus the old umbrella style, um, plating stuff, and doing some other things right now, but figured I had a few minutes to wait. Here's one where the ball fell out and the strap fell out, and here's one where it had never been installed. It was a new old stock bowl. We'll go take a look at these, and I'll bring a new style over, and we'll go over it real quick, or at least as best as I can with one hand. It's the new style. Okay, now I'm not actually going to be able to install this because, well, it's just going to be too difficult to do with one hand. But you can buy, these came from Allstate Carburetor, a brand new ball and a strap. And the main thing, let me try to zoom in here, is this seat needs to be right. If it's too corroded, or if the ball is corroded like in Gavin's photo, this will not seat. And there's the new, and we can put a ball in here. And the strap goes like so. Well, shoot. Again, this is going to be really difficult to do with one hand. And it just sets in there. And from the factory, you would use a punch to knock this over, or a screwdriver to pin it down. I would also advise being very careful not to get it on the ball, using a little bit of retaining compound, just putting it right on that side, let it sit there and get set up, and then pin it over. Like I said, well, let me grab a bolt that probably has one in there already. There we go. I mean, that's a pretty rough one, but it'll work. And one way to test or clean, because you really can't take these off, is you can shoot air. This one's stuck. When I go to clean them, there's a setting, about 10 thousandths, 15 thousandths, between the strap and the ball. Remove it, but you can kind of clean and polish the ball. By spinning the ball in the seat like that, you can knock a lot of the little trash and stuff out. This is obviously a dirty bowl, so whatever. But you can see how the factory kind of knocked the casting tight so that it would retain that. It doesn't take much, and sometimes you have to be really careful when adjusting this, because it will come off. And that's where the retaining compound and redoing this would come in quite nicely. Now, for the newer style. Okay, well, before I get to that, so I'll lose my parts. Take them out. Okay, so as you see, we have, let me grab the rest of the parts too. So we'll have a spring, and here's the umbrella check, and accelerator pump. All right, so you have your spring and you have your pump on here like this. Now imagine the ball is installed. Now when you press this down, because this is full of fuel, and you know, obviously it's upside down right now. When you press this down, it shoots fuel out that little hole right there. And that puts it through here, and it goes through the mirroring block, and it goes up to the nozzle. Okay, we understand that. That's pretty simple, right? Well, when you release, the spring opens this up again, And by doing that, it pulls on the ball there, so fuel from the bowl comes into the accelerator pump. Pretty simple, right? A couple different types of springs out there. Really, the only one you should be using is this. There's a super light one, and it just doesn't work very well for performance applications, so there's really no sense talking too much about it. But that's the basic idea. And when you press down, again, let me put the spring in there. When you press down, in order for the fuel to come out here and not just shoot back into the ball seats against that, which is why that seat needs to be somewhat clean and not overly corroded, because if it doesn't seat perfectly, you lose some of the pump shot into the bowl. Now, one of the good parts about this system is when it's installed like this, if you shut down and fuel boils in this pump area, the pump channel, it will go back into the bowl. It won't go out the nozzle and thus into the intake. So that's kind of a nice feature of this. I can't really say exactly how much that impacts everything, but it does seem to help. Now this style here, the umbrella check on a new bowl, works much the same way. The difference is this here goes, one-handing it again, and you pull it through until the little fat piece snaps, and that's what retains it. And then you trim this because it will keep the float from dropping all the way, so once you pull it through. Now how this one works, much the same idea. When you press this down, fuel cannot go out here because the seal's in place. It's totally sealed, and fuel has to go out here into the metering block. Now the benefit of this style, well, Holley probably did it because it was less parts and it was easier to make, but the benefit in function, you do get more of a pump shot. You lose less because no fuel is required to seat the check ball. And these two holes on the side are for drawing the fuel in. So when the spring, you fire it, when it comes back up, it pulls, and this rubber's pretty thin, it pulls the fuel back in. Pretty simple. This little tiny hole here is actually a bleed off hole. On some smaller cars where you do not want a full pump shot, you can drill that, start at really small and make it larger as needed. Stuff like 390 CFM carbs that just don't require that much fuel. Now you can see, as we were making fun of that guy yesterday, if you were to put this pump check in here, two problems occur. The first one is, how does the fuel get in here? It cannot. This will pretty much block off all of the fuel from coming in. You would have to drill 2 more holes. But aside from that, since you have all of this machined already, this cannot seal. I've often considered on some of these where the ball unit is really destroyed and trashed, because as you've seen before, if you follow my page, I do restore some pretty rough carbs. And sometimes that seat where the ball sits is really horrible. And there's just, almost impossible. You don't have enough casting to fix it. So I have considered taking an end mill and just lowering it down and grinding this, but I honestly think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that there's enough meat there. I feel like by the time I grind all of that out so that it's flat, I just don't feel like there's going to be enough to do anything. I might try it someday when I have the time, whenever, that is. But that ought to get you an idea of the differences. And like I said, allcarbs.com. Jared and Jim from Allstate Carburetor, they're great parts suppliers, and they have these in stock. I've seen them on their webpage, and that's how I do it. Like I said, just a little drop of retaining compound here. Now sometimes I have to do one side at a time, so I'll kind of put it at an angle so that it can't leak down, and I'll put a drop there just so that it stays in that little pocket, and I'll let the brass set up so that it can't move, and then I'll situate it so I can do the other side. And once done, I can hammer these and kind of peen them over. Now with an older one like this that's already been peened, really you're kind of screwed, but you can take, I don't know if this is the right size, that's a little too small. You can take a screwdriver that fits snugly between here and kind of wiggle it back and forth to push the casting back. But you have to be real careful because it can break off. This is just zinc die casting. It is not the strongest stuff in the world, but it's cheap to produce, which is why they made a bazillion out of these, you know, and it melts really quickly and hardens quickly, so it's fast from a industrial standpoint. Anyway, so that's what I would do if you had one like this. I would find the right screwdriver and kind of wiggle it back and forth and try to open it up so the brass piece could fit back in. I would use my retaining compound, any of the green Loctites, and then I would install brand new parts. Now, the strap does not, but some of the old Walker kits, and one of the reasons I buy them and have a few around, they'll have an assortment of, this is a 15964, which is like a basic 750 kit. See if I can get it open. No. Again, I don't have a cameraman, so, you know, oh, you're not talking loud enough. Oh, you're not, you know, doing stuff like you're supposed to. Just shut the fuck up. Leave me alone. I'm doing the best I can to try to educate people about these. But one of the reasons I do buy these kits, just to have a couple on hand, because I do a lot of carbs, is they come with a variety of different check ball and clip sizes, and sometimes it's really helpful. Of course, you know, I buy these like check needles by the 100 just to have on hand, but a lot of times there's a lot of just little odds and ends, and it can help you out if you're in a bind. And, you know, for the, I don't know, $40 a kit is, you know, I think I would just buy one and hang it on the shelf, even if you throw the gaskets away, which frankly I don't actually think I would use these gaskets. They're junk, but it's nice to have just for the odds and ends. Well, if you have any questions, ask. I'm plating all day, so if I have to make another video or show how I would do something, I'm more than happy to show. All right, thanks, and good luck out there.